The Galaxy Council chambers had never witnessed such silence. You could practically hear the collective gulp of 300 alien species as they watched Admiral Zara Chen walk through those towering obsidian doors. Her boots clicked against the polished floor with the rhythm of a countdown timer. Click, click, click. Each step echoed like the heartbeat of impending doom. "Oh, this is rich," she muttered under her breath, scanning to see tentacles, scales, and various other appendages that belonged to beings who had once considered humanity nothing more than cosmic insects. Look at them all, sitting there like guilty children who got caught stealing cookies from the jar. The Vorthack representative, a hulking creature with 4 arms and skin like molten lava, shifted uncomfortably in his specially designed seat. His species had been the first to vote for humanity's extermination. Right beside him sat Chancellor Vex of the Crystalline Confederacy, her diamond-like features reflecting the chamber's lights in fractured rainbows. She had been the one to propose turning Earth into a mining colony after wiping out its inhabitants. Zara's lips curved into what might have been mistaken for a smile if you didn't look too closely at her eyes. Those steel-gray eyes held no warmth, no mercy, and definitely no forgiveness. They held something far more terrifying: patience. "Distinguished members of the Galaxy Council," she began, her voice carrying perfectly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "I'm sure you're all wondering why I've requested this emergency session." A nervous chittering arose from the insectoid delegation. The Hive Queen's compound eyes glittered with barely concealed terror. "Good. They should be afraid." "Oh, wait," Zara continued, tapping her temple with one finger in mock realization. "That's right. You didn't exactly give me a choice in coming here, did you? After all, it was this very council that issued the ultimatum. Surrender unconditionally or face complete annihilation. Those were your exact words, weren't they, Chancellor Vex?" The crystalline being's form flickered slightly, a telltale sign of extreme distress among her species. "Admiral Chen, surely we can discuss this matter with civility and..." "Civility?" Zara's laugh cut through the chamber, like a plasma blade through butter. "Oh, that's absolutely precious coming from someone who voted to glass my homeworld and sell my people as slave labor to the mining cartels. Civility, right?" She began walking again, this time moving in a slow circle around the central speaking platform. Her movement was predatory, deliberate, like a shark circling wounded prey in bloody water. "You see, honored council members, you made one tiny insignificant mistake. Just one little error in your calculations." She paused, letting the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. "You assumed we would surrender." General Krex of the Titan Confederacy, a mountain of muscle and aggression, slammed his massive fist on his desk. "Enough games, human. You're here because your pathetic species has no choice. We outnumber you 1,000,000 to 1. Our fleets..." "Your fleets," Zara interrupted smoothly, "are very impressive. Truly. I especially admire the Dreadnought Inevitable that was leading your invasion force toward the Sol system." She pulled out a small holographic projector and activated it. This was the Inevitable yesterday morning. The hologram showed a magnificent warship, kilometers long, bristling with enough firepower to crack planets. The assembled aliens nodded approvingly, remembering their pride in that technological marvel. "And this," Zara said, switching the image, "was the Inevitable yesterday evening." The new hologram displayed a cloud of metallic debris spinning lazily in space, occasionally illuminated by small explosions as fuel lines continued to rupture and burn. The chamber erupted in shocked gasps and angry chittering. General Krex was on his feet, his species equivalent of veins bulging with rage. Impossible. The Inevitable was protected by shield arrays that could withstand supernova-level energy bursts. "Oh, absolutely," Zara agreed cheerfully. "Your shields were magnificent, truly impenetrable, which is why we didn't try to break through them." She changed the hologram again. This time it showed detailed schematics of the Inevitable's construction, with specific sections highlighted in pulsing red. "You see, while you were all busy building bigger guns and stronger shields, humanity was asking different questions. Not how do we hit harder, but how do we think smarter? Your shield generators require a specific crystalline matrix to function. Fascinating technology, really. Absolutely impossible to disrupt from the outside." The crystalline Confederacy's chancellor leaned forward, her faceted features catching the light. Were you implying human? Oh, I'm not implying anything, Zara said with that same terrifying smile. I'm telling you exactly what happened. You see, those crystals you use for your shield matrices, they're grown in the Kepler mining systems, aren't they? Specifically, in the automated mining facilities on Kepler 442b. A collective realization began to dawn across the chamber. The representative from the Kepler systems, a being that looked like an oversized praying mantis, began to shake visibly. 3 months ago, Zara continued conversationally, a small transport ship suffered engine failure near Kepler 442b. Just a routine merchant vessel, carrying relief supplies to refugee colonies. Nothing threatening about it at all. The distress call was answered by your mining facility, Chancellor Vex. They brought the ship and its crew aboard for repairs. Chancellor Vex's crystalline form was now flickering rapidly, like a strobe light having a seizure. That was a humanitarian gesture. We would never turn away beings in distress. Oh, absolutely not, Zara agreed warmly. It was very humanitarian of you. The crew was so grateful for your kindness. They spent 3 whole days in your facility while their ship was being repaired. They were particularly interested in your crystal growing processes. Asked lots of questions. Very curious about the molecular structure of the matrices you were producing. She paused to let that sink in, watching as understanding bloomed like a toxic flower across hundreds of alien faces. The thing about crystal matrices, she said thoughtfully, is that their structure is absolutely critical to their function. Change even a few atoms in a lattice, and well, they become quite unstable under stress. The kind of stress that, say, a massive energy buildup from ship-to-ship weapons might create. General Krex's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. You sabotaged our shield crystals. Sabotage is such an ugly word, Zara replied, waving her hand dismissively. We prefer to think of it as introducing a design improvement, a feature that makes your shields much more responsive to combat conditions. The hologram changed again, showing a detailed molecular diagram of the crystal matrix with tiny alterations highlighted in blue. The beautiful part, she continued, is that the modification is completely undetectable until the shields are brought to full power under combat conditions. Then the altered molecules create a cascade failure that turns your impenetrable barriers into rather spectacular fireworks displays. She switched the hologram back to the debris field that had once been the inevitable. The crew didn't suffer, if you're wondering. The shield collapse created an electromagnetic pulse that knocked out all their systems instantly. They were unconscious when the hull breached. Very humane, really. The chamber had gone so quiet you could hear the air recycling systems humming. 300 of the galaxy's most powerful beings sat in stunned silence as the full implications of what they were hearing sank in. But surely, Chancellor Vex managed to say, her voice sounding like wind chimes in a hurricane, surely that was just one ship. The rest of our combined fleets are all equipped with shield matrices from the same source. Zara finished pleasantly. Every single one. You see, the Kepler facilities produce 97% of all shield crystals in the galaxy. It's quite the monopoly you built there. Very efficient. Very centralized. She began walking again, her boots clicking out that same ominous rhythm. Of course, it would take time for our people to modify the molecular structure of every crystal in production. Months, even. Good thing we started 6 months ago, right after we intercepted the first communications about your planned invasion. The Hive Queen's compound eyes were now completely black, a sign of maximum terror in her species. 6 months? But that means every shield matrix produced since then is equipped with our special modifications, yes, Zara confirmed. Your entire combined armada is currently floating in space in various stages of disassembly. Some ships manage to shut down their shields before the cascade failure is completed, which means they're now sitting defenseless in space. Others, well, let's just say the scrap metal market is about to see a significant oversupply. She stopped walking and turned to face the council directly. But here's the truly beautiful part. The part that I think demonstrates the difference between human thinking and, well, yours. The silence was now so complete it seemed to have physical weight. You could have simply asked us to join your galactic community. You could have offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, mutual defense pacts. You could have treated us as equals deserving of respect and cooperation. Her smile vanished completely, replaced by something that made several council members actually whimper. Instead, you decided that a species that had fought its way up from stone tools to faster-than-light travel in the span of a few thousand years would just quietly accept extermination. You thought we would surrender without a fight. General Krex found his voice again, though it came out as more of a croak. What do you want from us? Want? Zara's eyebrows rose in apparent surprise. Oh, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to inform you of the new reality. She activated her holographic projector one final time. The image that appeared showed the Sol system, but it looked very different from the last time any of these beings had seen it. Where there had once been a small collection of planets orbited by primitive space stations, there was now something that defied easy description. Massive ring structures encircled every planet and moon. Colossal stations hung in space like artificial stars, their surfaces bristling with technologies that made the Council's best scientists weep with envy. Ships moved between the structures in impossible numbers, their designs sleek and deadly and utterly alien to anything in the galactic databases. You see, Zara said conversationally, while you were all busy squabbling over who got to claim which human colonies as slaves, we were busy building. 6 months is a long time when your entire species is working toward a single goal. Amazing what humans can accomplish when properly motivated. The image zoomed in on one of the ring structures, revealing details that made even the most advanced civilizations in the chamber gasp in disbelief. Orbital manufacturing facilities capable of producing 1,000 starships per day. Automated mining operations that can process entire asteroid belts in a matter of weeks. Defensive systems that make your shield technology look like soap bubbles in a hurricane. She paused, letting them absorb the impossibility of what they were seeing. Oh, and the ships you're looking at? They're not just fast or well-armed. They're equipped with something we call translocation drives. They can appear anywhere in the galaxy instantaneously. No hyperspace lanes, no jump gates, no predictable routes. Just pop into existence wherever they're needed. The council chamber erupted in chaos as the implications hit home. Voices raised in panic. Alien languages mixing into a cacophony of terror and disbelief. Some representatives were already reaching for communication devices, desperately trying to contact their home fleets. Zara let the noise continue for exactly 30 seconds, then cleared her throat. The sound somehow carried over all the shouting, bringing instant silence. Oh, I should probably mention, she said with casual indifference, those communication devices won't work. We've established what you might call a selective electromagnetic dampening field around this entire system. Your messages aren't getting through. Chancellor Vex's crystalline form was now barely maintaining cohesion. This is impossible. The energy requirements alone would be impossible with your technology. Yes, Zara agreed. But then, you never bothered to ask what humans might be capable of before you decided to wipe us out. Bit of an oversight, really. She began her predatory walk again, but this time her expression held something that might have been satisfaction. You want to know the real joke in all of this? The thing that makes me laugh so hard I can barely sleep at night? You could have had all of this technology. We would have shared it freely if you'd approached us as friends instead of executioners. The hologram shifted to show technical specifications that made the assembled scientists and military leaders salivate despite their terror. Fusion reactors that produce zero waste. Medical technology that can regrow entire limbs. Agricultural systems that can turn desert worlds into gardens. We would have given it all to you because that's what humans do. We share. We cooperate. We build each other up. Her voice hardened again, becoming as cold as deep space. Instead, you chose to see us as vermin to be exterminated. So now you get to live with the consequences of that choice. She stopped walking and faced him directly, her hands clasped behind her back in a pose that somehow managed to be both casual and threatening. Here are your new options, and please note that these are not negotiations. These are statements of fact about your immediate future. The chamber held its breath. Option 1. Zara announced, holding up a single finger. You can attempt to fight us. Your surviving ships can try to regroup and launch another attack on human space. I highly recommend this course of action. The sarcasm in her voice was so thick it could have been bottled and sold as industrial-grade solvent. Why would you recommend that? General Krex managed to ask, though his voice sounded like gravel being crushed underfoot. Zara's smile returned, but this time it held genuine warmth. The kind of warmth you might feel from standing too close to a nuclear explosion, because it would give us an excuse to demonstrate what humans do to species that threaten our survival. And trust me, after 6 months of very motivated research and development, we have some truly fascinating new ways to express our displeasure. She gestured casually, and hologram changed to show what looked like a small, innocuous silver sphere floating in space. This little beauty is what we call a star killer. It's about the size of a basketball, completely undetectable to conventional sensors, and can turn any star into a supernova within approximately 47 minutes of deployment. The collective intake of breath from 300 different respiratory systems created a sound like a hurricane trying to inhale. We have approximately 50,000 of these devices currently in production. Each one is programmed to seek out specific stellar classifications, the kind of stars that happen to be the primary energy sources for each of your respective home systems. Chancellor Vex's crystalline form was now flickering so rapidly it was giving several council members seizures. You wouldn't dare. The galactic community would never. The galactic community, Zara interrupted, just finished voting to exterminate my entire species. Forgive me if I'm not particularly concerned about their opinions on proportional response. She changed the hologram again, this time showing a detailed map of the galaxy with thousands of systems highlighted in ominous red. Option 2 is more civilized, though considerably less entertaining from my perspective. You can surrender unconditionally and accept human oversight of all your military operations, trade policies, and territorial expansion plans. The chamber erupted again, this time in outraged protests. Voices rose in dozens of languages, all expressing variations of the same basic theme. That such terms were completely unacceptable. Zara let them vent for exactly 1 minute, then held up her hand for silence. The protest died immediately. I'm sorry. Did I give the impression that these were suggestions? Let me clarify. These are not terms of negotiation. These are statements of fact about what happens next. She activated a new hologram, showing real-time tactical displays from across the galaxy. Hundreds of systems showed the same scene. Massive human fleets materializing out of nowhere, surrounding planets and space stations with overwhelming force. While we've been having this lovely chat, human expeditionary forces have taken positions around every major population center, industrial facility, and military installation in the galaxy. They're not attacking, mind you. They're simply waiting for instructions. The Hive Queen's compound eyes had gone completely black again. How many ships do you have? Right now? In active deployment. Zara appeared to consider the question seriously. Roughly 12 million. Give or take a few 100,000. Production is ramping up quickly, though. We should be at 25 million within the next few days. The numbers were so absurd that several council members actually laughed, thinking it had to be some kind of joke. The laughter died quickly when they realized Zara's expression hadn't changed. 12 million starships. General Krex repeated slowly, as if testing the words for sanity. That's impossible. The resource requirements alone would strip entire solar systems bare. Oh, we're not using conventional resources. Zara replied cheerfully. We're converting matter directly from quantum foam. Much more efficient, and it doesn't require destroying existing worlds to build new ones. Another one of those human innovations you could have benefited from if you'd chosen cooperation over conquest. She walked over to the central holographic projector and began manipulating the display with casual expertise. The thing is, we've learned some interesting lessons about galactic politics over the past 6 months. Lessons about how species think, how they make decisions, how they justify their actions. The display shifted to show psychological profiles and behavioral analysis charts for hundreds of different alien species. For example, the Vorthak only respect overwhelming force. Negotiation is seen as weakness in their culture. The Crystalline Confederacy values efficiency above all else. even when that efficiency leads to morally questionable decisions. The Titan Confederacy believes that might makes right, and that superior firepower grants superior moral authority. Each species mentioned shifted uncomfortably as their deepest cultural motivations were laid bare with clinical precision. So we've designed our approach to work with your psychology instead of against it. The Vorthack will respect us because we've demonstrated superior force. The Crystalline Confederacy will cooperate because resistance would be inefficient. The Titan Confederacy will submit because we've proven ourselves stronger. She turned to face the council directly, and for the first time since entering the chamber, her expression showed something other than cold amusement. It showed disappointment. But here's what really breaks my heart about this whole situation. You could have learned about human psychology just as easily. You could have discovered that humans respond better to respect and threats, better to cooperation and coercion, better to friendship than fear. The hologram shifted to show images of Earth before the invasion threat. Cities full of diverse populations working together, space stations where multiple species collaborated on scientific research, trade agreements that benefited everyone involved. We would have been your greatest allies. The species that never gives up, never stops trying, never abandons our friends. We would have stood beside you against any threat, shared our discoveries freely, helped you solve problems that have plagued the galaxy for millennia. Her voice grew softer, but somehow more terrible for its quietness. Instead, you chose to see us as a threat to be eliminated. So now you get to live with the consequences of that choice. The universe you could have had as partners, you now get to experience as subjects. General Krex slammed his fist on his desk again, though this time the gesture seemed more desperate than angry. This is madness. You can't possibly govern the entire galaxy. The logistics alone. Oh, we're not going to govern you, Zara said, looking genuinely surprised by the suggestion. That would be far too much work, and frankly, most of your species are perfectly capable of governing yourselves. She manipulated the hologram again, showing a new organizational chart that made several political scientists in the chamber gasp with recognition. We're implementing what humans call a federal system. Each species maintains complete autonomy over their internal affairs. You can keep your governments, your cultures, your traditions, everything that makes you who you are. The relief that flickered across hundreds of alien faces was almost palpable. Almost. However, Zara continued, and that single word dropped the chamber temperature by several degrees. All external military actions, territorial expansion, and interspecies conflicts now require approval from the Human Oversight Committee. The relief vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Think of us as galactic peacekeepers. We'll make sure that no species ever again faces a threat of extinction because they were deemed inconvenient by their neighbors. Chancellor Vex found her voice again, though it sounded like crystal wind chimes being crushed under a steamroller. And if we refuse? If we choose to maintain our sovereignty? Zara's smile returned, but this time it held no warmth whatsoever. Oh, that brings us to option 3. The option I really, truly hope someone chooses because it will be so much fun to implement. She gestured, and the hologram changed to show something that defied immediate comprehension. It looked like a sphere of absolute darkness, surrounded by swirling energy patterns. This is what we call a reality anchor. It creates a localized bubble of space-time where the laws of physics work a little differently. Specifically, it prevents faster-than-light travel, quantum communication, and several other technologies that modern civilization depends on. The implications began to dawn on the assembled representatives, and the horror on their faces was almost artistic in its intensity. A species that chooses noncompliance gets to experience technological regression in real time. No more space travel. No more interstellar communication. No more energy weapons or advanced manufacturing. You get to rediscover the joys of chemical rockets and radio waves. She manipulated the display to show a time-lapse simulation of what happened to a star system after reality anchor deployment. Advanced civilizations crumbling as their technology failed. Populations trapped on individual worlds. Centuries of progress vanishing in a matter of hours. The effect is completely reversible, of course. We're not monsters. Comply with the new galactic order, and your technology comes back online immediately. Continue to resist, and well, you get to experience the Dark Ages all over again. The Hive Queen was the first to break, her compound eyes shifting from black to a pale, defeated gray. How long do we have to decide? Oh, you've already decided, Zara said pleasantly. Every species in this chamber that hasn't launched an active military response against human forces in the next 72 hours will be considered to have accepted Option 2. Those that do attack us get to experience Option 3, for as long as it takes them to reconsider their position. She began walking toward the exit, her mission apparently complete. Wait! General Krex called out, desperation finally overcoming his pride. What about Option 1? You said you recommended that we fight you. Zara paused at the chamber doors and looked back over her shoulder. For just a moment, her mask of professional detachment slipped and the raw pain of betrayal showed through. Because if you had chosen to fight, it would have meant you still had courage, still had principles you were willing to die for. It would have meant that somewhere in your species' collective soul, there was still something worth respecting. The doors began to cycle open with a soft pneumatic hiss. Instead, you're going to surrender. You're going to accept subjugation because it's easier than resistance. You're going to trade your freedom for the illusion of safety, just like you tried to trade our lives for the illusion of security. She stepped through the doorway, but turned back one final time. The saddest part about this whole situation? In 100 years, when human oversight has brought peace and prosperity to the galaxy, when species that have been enemies for millennia are working together on projects that benefit everyone, when we shared our technology freely and help you solve problems you never thought possible, you'll thank us for conquering you. Her laugh echoed through the chamber, bitter and knowing. You'll tell your children that it was the best thing that ever happened to the galactic community. You'll build monuments to commemorate the day humanity saved the galaxy from itself. And the really tragic part is, you'll be absolutely right. The door sealed shut behind her with finality that seemed to echo through the very structure of galactic civilization. In the silence that followed, 300 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat alone with the consequences of their choices. Outside, human ships waited patiently for their responses, prepared to implement whatever option each species ultimately selected. The age of human dominance had begun not with the roar of weapons or the crash of armies, but with a quiet click of boots on polished stone and the soft closure of chamber doors. She had broken them, without lifting a finger, without firing a shot, without even raising her voice above conversational levels. She had simply shown them the future they had chosen and let them decide whether they preferred to live in it or die fighting against it. In the end, that choice revealed more about the true nature of the galactic community than 1,000 years of warfare ever could have. The revolution was over before it began. Humanity had won not through superior firepower, but through superior understanding of what victory actually meant. And in her private quarters aboard the human flagship, Admiral Zara Chen allowed herself one moment of genuine emotion as she looked out at the stars that would never again threaten her species with extinction. She had broken them completely, and somehow that victory felt more hollow than any defeat ever could have.